As the founders of Surefoot, Bob and Russ Shea are obsessed with creating the perfect ski boot for you because they know that a properly fitted custom ski boot will make you a better skier, whatever level you're at. Surefoot, better fitting, better skiing.
Welcome, Nico. I trust you're doing well.
Hello, Mark. Yes, doing very well. End of season. Very happy about the 2025 Freeride World Tour Pro season with 6 competitions done. Happy riders, very good content, happy partners. It wasn't always easy. I was going to say, like always, we had some challenges, but we found some good solutions. And World Tours progressing. And we're now working on next year's 2026 season with 2 exciting new things, i.e. 1, going back to AK, and 2, the first FIS Freeride World Championships in Andorra. So, exciting times in front of us.
Right on. So, right. So you're setting me up perfectly. I love it. So I wanted to ask you, obviously, a big announcement. You just alluded to it. You added Alaska. You're going back to Alaska.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how that came about. What was kind of the process, the desire, kind of the behind the scenes workings in order to get that to happen?
Well, pretty simple. Freeride World Tour was in Alaska, in Haines in 2015, 16, 17 with solid events. Going to Alaska adds a dimension to the tour. As we know, the terrain is unique. It's an adventure. It's a first for most riders. So it's emotions, incredible riding, and incredible content. We did not go back to Alaska for purely financial reasons. Knowing an event in Alaska costs a little more than an event on the continent. Knowing, first of all, it's further, so the travel of the 50 plus staff is more expensive, and then the weather window needs to be a little longer. Because you don't want to go to Alaska and be shut down for 6 days and go home. So we're going for 9, potentially 10 days of weather waiting period. With the experience we've had in 2015, 16, and 17, one time we had to extend the weather window of 1 day, and it was a good choice. And we were happy that we had the budget to basically wait with 50 staff and 30 riders. So as of 2018, we didn't go back because our title partner, Swatch, wasn't our title partner anymore. And this year, we're going back because together with the support of Peak Performance and AK title partner Yeti, who extended its partnership for us to be able to connect the dots in terms of budget, and together with Hale-Woods, that is supporting the event, not only logistically, but financially, we can go back. And this has been a goal since we left Alaska in 2017. So it'll be 9 years. So patience is the word there. But I'm happy because, first of all, riders will be excited. And we know that when riders are excited, that's the base of a successful event.
Yeah, absolutely. In addition to that, if you're going to add, sometimes you have to take away. So Kicking Horse has been dropped off of the calendar, I guess, in place of Alaska. Now, thinking about the numbers, was it reversed when you left Alaska and you picked up Kicking Horse? Am I not mistaken?
Yes, exactly. We went to Kicking Horse as of 2018 because we couldn't afford to go back to AK, because, first of all, Kicking Horse was willing to host a World Tour event together with Golden, and they did finance the event together with Destination BC. Investments that we did not have from Hale-Woods at that time. So Hale-Woods stepped it up this time. We're super grateful to Kicking Horse, Golden, and British Columbia, because we've had really good events there, fantastic collaboration, and we're sad not to be able to keep those 2 American stops in the calendar. And there again, it is a budget decision. If we could afford to have both AK and Kicking Horse, we would have gone for that solution. But I'm pretty sure that in the medium term, we'll have an event in Canada, and obviously we'll speak to Kicking Horse and Golden when that opportunity comes.
Interesting. And I guess you mentioned just a lot of it's an expensive tour to run. Is it basically your overall budget just allows for the 6 events versus say 7?
Exactly.
And follow up, do you think 7 is too many?
No, I don't think 7 is too many. 7 is not too many if you have the budget to organize a solid event, and ideally if your prize money goes up, so that for riders it makes sense to allocate as many weather windows in their winter calendar. So it's a budget aspect, like for any sport, and we're growing steadily, we're growing organically. We cannot rely on investors that are basically putting the cash, thinking it's going to be break even in a couple of years, which is the case of other properties, from what we understand. And with the prospect of having an inclusion in the Olympic program, this will grow the sport. This will bring more revenues and resources for us to have an even bigger tour with more prize money, with a better budget to organize a perfect production. I see this in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
All right. Okay. So that is the answer that a lot of people have been asking us. So we have this thing called the Backslap inbox. So we have a lot of people sending us questions and comments.
May I just add something?
Please, yeah.
What I really like is that, and I was speaking to Toby Barrett of Kicking Horse like half an hour ago, about him not only confirming that they understand the move, they're also grateful about the partnership we've had, and we all know it's not over. We were speaking of, okay, what's next for Kicking Horse in terms of junior events, of international events, of potentially 3, 4 stars challenger events in the future. Kicking Horse and Golden are willing to build on what we've done together, and they had events before World Tour went there, and I think this is really good. So we are not going to have a World Tour there, but it's not like a crisis with them at all. We've had, if I'm not mistaken, from 2018 to 2025, it's eight winters. One didn't happen because of COVID. On the first winter, we had 2 events, 2 competitions in Kicking Horse, because there was the Kicking Horse event, but we also replaced the Japanese event.
Hakuba event, yeah. It was one day after the next, and it was minus 30. We talk about this on the show a lot, and your team was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. They basically picked everything up from one ridge, moved it to another ridge. It was minus 30. They did it overnight, and you had the event the next day. It was spectacular.
Yeah, and that's the principle in organizing freeride events. You have to work with what the nature proposes, and you have to be as agile as possible. But again, I wanna be super thankful to Kicking Horse and Golden for the really good partnership we've had, and I like the way we talk today with them, meaning it's, as we say in French, just un au revoir.
Perfect. So there's, the window is open for potentially other events, whether it's a challenge or maybe another tour event down the road.
Yes.
The door is open. Great. I'd love to hear
Absolutely.
that
and they are directly discussing with IFSA and with us, and that's how good collaborations go.
Love it. I love that, especially since that's kind of our home event, and I'm always at that one. I went to every one. I love it there. All right. So you did mention IFSA. So the next question I want to get into is the challengers. So the challengers are complete. A couple of years ago, you brought in kind of a new format where once the cut riders were able to then go to the Challenger Tour and basically get an extra opportunity to get back on the tour rather than take a full year off.
Yep.
This year, there was kind of a return to a new system for Region 1 where there was a full tour, a full 6 events that kind of mirrored the Freeride World Tour, whereas the IFSA still had that 3 event format following the cut.
Yeah.
Now, you'll probably get into this, but I want to just ask a couple questions. Why the difference between the two?
Yeah.
And the reasoning I'm asking this is, and we've had these questions to the show before as well, is say you're from North America, you have the opportunity once you get knocked off the tour to get back on the tour next year. Whereas with the Region 1 riders, it doesn't look like they have that opportunity. Yeah. So there's a bit of that, disparity between where you're from allows whether you have to maybe wait another year or you can get back on next year. And just one last little adjustment to that. I know there are some riders who have competed in Region 1 and who have competed in Region 2, depending on the year. So based on kind of those stats, I'm sure you have a great answer for me, and I'll let you. I'll
tell
let
me
you go.
if the answer is great or not.
All right.
So why do we have 2 different systems? We've tried the system of having 2 series the same winter for 3 years, and the conclusion in Region 1, so in Europe, was that we were too dependent on spring weather to have good, legitimate contests in March and beginning of April.
Spring comes quick in Europe, doesn't it?
And especially in lower altitude resorts. Last year, our Challenger host resorts were Avoria in the Porte du Soleil in Switzerland, Switzerland and France area. The venues top altitude were 2,500 or even less meters high. In Austria, we had venues at just 2,000 meters altitude start gates. And basically, we had to run a whole series of qualification in very average, including sub-minimum conditions. And we thought, well, the whole point of this is to have the best riders have a go at it and prove that they have their spot on the World Tour. And the reality was that it was a lottery in some cases, and that our nice concept based on what WSL does in surfing, meaning there's a World Tour halfway through or a little more now, the guys that and girls that don't make it compete against the top guys of the qualifiers. Reality is our winter is much shorter in time than what WSL can work with. Basically, they have 12 months to work with. We have 3 because you need snow. You cannot have events too early in January. And as of the end of March, and it's gently too late, becoming too late. So we decided to go back to a full series where the best of the qualifiers of the previous season and the guys and girls that didn't make it on the World Tour the previous season would battle it in a closed series, like on the World Tour, 6 events, best 4 result counts. And the conclusion is, and we've asked the riders, is that format better? And the vast majority said yes, because they had better conditions in those competitions, and the ranking is legit. Why did we continue with the old system in North America? That was IFSA's choice. They are the organizers. They have resorts at higher altitude, Colorado, for example, and Kirkwood in California, which is high, and they had good conditions, and they wanted to go on with what we proposed to implement 2 years earlier, which we fully respect. Yes, it makes a difference, but in the end, if you look at who qualified, it doesn't. If I'm not mistaken, there was no rider dropping out from World Tour that did requalify through the challenges in Region 2, so Americas this year.
Yep, that's a good point. That's a good point. We have
and really we balanced the pros and cons. There's no ideal solution, but we balanced them, and we thought having solid events is more important than giving that chance that they may or may not take to a handful of riders, but then potentially have bad snow conditions. So that's the reality, and we are debriefing with IFSA next week to see what their plans for the future is, and basically they could decide either to continue with the system or to go back to a full season of Challenger.
Fair enough. Question, one kind of follow-up question. If, say, a rider from traditionally Region 1, like a European rider, if they said, hey, I want to go to Region 2 because I really think I can get back on the tour, would you allow them to do that? Because Region 2 athletes are allowed to do that.
The answer is no. You can go on the Challenger in the region where you qualified from.
Right. I'm just asking because I know
so that it's fair. Otherwise, especially if you have two different systems, it
makes things tough.
Well, it would make things unfair, because basically you could have suddenly a lot of Europeans and Kiwis coming to the Region 2 challenges and make it more difficult for Americans and Canadians and South Americans to qualify.
I was asking specifically about the cut riders. Because like I said, the only cut riders specifically.
But the rule is the same for the cut riders of the World Tour.
Right.
It's basically you go back to the challenges in the region you qualified to the World Tour from.
Right. And have you heard any issues between the riders about that level?
We had questions with some saying, "Can I go to the United States next week and ask for a wildcard to IFSA?" And the answer was the rule doesn't allow it, and the rule was discussed with riders so that a majority believes that this is the right way to do things.
Right. And then for those riders that basically put their intention to start from the beginning of either the 3 events in Region 2 or the 6 events in Region 1, it's basically where they start. For instance, Finn Powell, who has moved on this year, he's Kiwi, spends a lot of time in Whistler, has competed in Region 2 in the past, but this year he decided to compete Region 1. So is that how that works? It's just wherever your intention is, you start and have to go right through. And then if he ends up popping off the tour because he got on the tour through Region 1, he's got to go back to Region 1.
Yes.
Okay. Great. That clears up a lot of questions. I still have lots. Like, I'm a big sports fan, I like getting into the details. But that was a really great answer for that. Also, did you pay much attention to the Region 1 challengers, and were you there to see many of the events? Because, and congratulations, your son finished first overall in men's ski, which is congratulations. You must be a proud dad.
I'm a proud dad. I'm happy for him because he's put a lot of energy for the last years. This was never a goal. I'm quite surprised that he's there. No, I say that because I see too many soccer dads pushing their kids, and it's usually unhealthy. No, it's great. I was only able to attend the Kitzsteinhorn event, so the fifth one. The other ones I was on the World Tour events, so I watched them from the judges area in Georgia on the live webcast, and from a restaurant in Georgia for two of them. There was no live webcast at the first event, and then yeah. If I can, I go. Not only because it's my son's competing, but because it's really important for us managers of the World Tour to understand how things work at all level, from freeride academies to juniors to the challengers. Meet organizers, understand what their environment is, what their challenges are. Meet partners. This is part of the job that we've been doing now for 17 years, and that's why the pyramid of the sport is doing well, and that's why the IOC is going to say yes, we want to include freeriding in the Olympics, not just because there's a world tour, but because there is this pyramid of the sport with over 10,000 licensed members today, 71 nationalities, over 300 competitions that are structured in the same system and make and offer a path to the top, to the best riders. And that's super exciting, as exciting as the World Tour. And that's why we have this progression of the sport, and guys like Marcus Gogan, who started in the Whistler Freeride Club as a Grom, and who today at age 20 is like pushing the boundaries to places we never even dreamt about. So that's for me the biggest satisfaction about all this, even bigger than going back to Alaska. And I really mean it. And as I live it with a kid at home that is fully into it, with his friends, I see the power of freeriding.
Very cool. So,
in a large sense.
last question before I get one follow up before I get to the last question. Are you guys going to start carpooling to events now?
Yes, carpooling to events. Absolutely.
Amazing. He's going to come early and help set up.
Yeah, I joked saying that he was going to share a room with me at events, so I could make sure he goes to bed early enough. But no, I won't do that. I'll have two caps on the World Tour, and I need to really address them separately.
Yeah, you got to have the boss hat and the dad hat. You got to be able to balance those.
Yeah. But it hasn't been a problem. He I don't think that it puts a huge pressure on him or whatever unhealthy vibe, and I don't see why it would change because he's on the World Tour. So
fair enough. And finally, you were talking about the pyramid and the strength of the pyramid and the growth of the Freeride World Tour. FIS purchased the tour a couple years ago, and now you're going to have them implement the World Championships into the calendar in Andorra next February. Can you explain just like a blanket explanation of how it works within the tour itself? And a question I have is athletes. Do the athletes have to be on tour in order to compete in World Championships, or is there a backdoor because it's World Championships?
So first of all, it's going to work exactly like Freeride World Tour. The organizers of the FIS Freeride World Championships will be the organizers of the Freeride World Tour, because we are Freeride within FIS. To make sure, and that's what we said almost 3 years ago when we were integrated into FIS, we said and the contract that we have allows that. We wanted, and we still want, and we will want to keep the roots of the sport and the spirits of the sport, and the right people in the right positions orchestrating that. So it will have a title of a FIS Freeride World Championships. The TV rights are sold through a centralized FIS marketing and media structure, which should give us more visibility than on the World Tour.
Bigger reach.
Bigger reach, hopefully. We'll see. It's a first. Now, in terms of riders, I'll try to keep it short. There will be a post explaining the whole thing that is going out at the end of this week. But basically, if we take ski men category, who will qualify? Top 12 of last year's World Tour. You're in top 12. If there's not more than 3 riders of the same country, all 3 are qualified for next year's World Championships. Then we have 5 spots for 5 regions, which are North America, South America, Oceania, Asia, and Europe. So on a Freeride World Championships qualifying list that you can find on the website in the section Freeride World Championships, the first rider of the highest ranked rider of these 5 zones is qualified. For example, Europe, it's actually Turdel, because he's 13th on that overall list, and he was 13th on the World Tour.
Mm-hmm. And so he's first in Europe. So he's basically ranked first. After that 12, he's the first. He's the top ranked of the rest from Europe.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. With a European passport.
Right.
So that's a difference, because we'll have a South American, we'll have an Asian, and those guys were not on the World Tour. Actually, it's not right. Tenra Katsuno is the first Asian ranked rider, and he will be at the World Championships, even if he didn't make the cut of the World Tour.
Oh, cool. So it's almost like a lot of the riders that may have been cut find their way back. They get to hang out with everybody for an event, kind of like a reunion. And then based on... Actually, I won't interrupt you too much. I'll let you continue.
And then there's a third group, which is nations quotas. We have edited a nations ranking composed of the top 100 results, of the top 100 riders of that list. And if in ski men, for example, Switzerland doesn't have 2 spots, doesn't have 2 riders qualified, then the first Swiss rider on that list gets a spot. And then we have 1 wildcard per category. That's the 4th group. And the 5th group is 1 rider from Andorra, and it's the National Ski Association of Andorra who can hand that wildcard to either a male skier or a snowboard woman, to make sure that we have at least 1 Andorran competing in the World Championships in Andorra.
There you go. Are you concerned at all that with the extra slots, we just talked about the pyramid, and there's a lot that goes into working through the challengers to get on the tour, because the people on the tour have earned it. They belong there. They've shown that they have those skills. With this World Championships qualification, you're going to be bringing in some riders that may not have qualified. Are you concerned about the level of their ability for those that may not have made it to the tour in order to compete in that event against tour riders, and how that might look?
The answer is no. And we'll only see next February if my answer was correct or not. But basically, we won't have beginners qualify for the World Championships, knowing you have to be in the top 60% of a 4-star event to be a potential World Championship rider. So there is a criteria there that if, for example, we don't have any South American that has made it in the top 20 of a 4-star event, then we would not qualify a South American. So it's not this risk is quite low. And
Right.
but the whole idea of a World Championships is to widen representation and show that actually we have riders in 71 licensed riders in 71 countries, which is fantastic, and we have very good South American riders, and we've seen that in the challenges. We've had Argentinians, Chileans, so this is good. Not speaking of the other regions where
You've
we know
got in ski women, Agostina Vietti is
yes,
making her way to the
yes.
tour from Argentina this year, which is, like you
And
said, is great.
she typically qualifies for the World Championships through her results in the Challenger, because the Challenger riders that made it to next year's World Tour in this list are just after the riders of the World Tour that made it to next year. So in the end, we'll have the best riders in the World Championships.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time this morning, Nico. Do you have any kind of final words or anything that we can look forward to? Something that maybe I didn't ask you that you'd like to get off your chest?
You covered it absolutely all. Thank you for those questions, because it's good to be able to answer these and be as straightforward as possible.
Love it. Well, that's why I appreciate you giving me your time this morning, and the people that listen I think they're getting really into it. It's fun to see. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks Nico for joining me, and I, for one, am looking forward to next season. Can't wait.
We can't wait. Have a good summer. Thank you, Mike.
This has been a Redmark Media production.